Hi, this is Farrell. Welcome to my video, and this is Robot TOD issue 2, pages 0 and 1. So it's basically like the inside front cover of this is going to be a floppy comic, and I did that with the first issue where the inside front cover I just added like extra art. It was like but with this series I'm doing the covers. You saw like on the last video that the covers are actually going to be part of the story. So excluding the first cover, which is sort of like an intro to the world. Each cover after that is going to be like a sequential pages in the story rather than just like an advertisement for the comic. And so once I collect it into a trade, you can see all the pages together, so that there'll be like the chapter dividers will also be artwork pages. So there you can see the first little bit I worked on based off the thumbnail there that I did in my sketchbook. You can even see the previous page cover thumbnail I did there on the left. But yeah, I started to use the timer and was starting to do it every day, but then I'd kind of go in these like marathon sessions, and then a couple of days I wouldn't work on it, so I was working on other projects. So this one kind of got out of it. It basically took me, I was going to try to do 2 pages, and I thought this was going to be easier pages, but they ended up being a little more involved. And I was going to try to do 2 pages a week on this issue. So, issue 1, I did a page a week. And this issue, I'm thinking I'm going to try to do 2 pages a week. And then issue 3, 3 pages a week, but we'll see what happens. So this actually took me a little over a week. It took me like a week and a half to do. And I was working on it pretty steadily. There's a couple days that I took off. But then I did work on it. It seemed like I put in quite a bit of time with it. And the pencils, as usual, took me the longest. The painting took me quite a bit, but not as long as the pencils. And the inks on this too took me a while. But you can see just from this video, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't record, especially with the painting. But you can see just from me penciling how much thought goes into like all the lines rather than then I'm even trying to do like little math on the clock, like, okay, if I get done by this time, if I get done by this time, it's like, okay, I'll spend this much time and get this much penciled. But yeah, so there's the next kind of pass you can see that I made at those characters are a lot more cleaned up in the last one. Yeah, throughout this video, I'm just going to be kind of like zooming in on a couple little spots here and there. But most of it, I feel like most of this video is me working out these pencils. And I think the pencils probably took me like a week just on them. Took most of the week. And then I didn't really start inking it until last weekend. And, I finished it yesterday. I spent the whole day yesterday, and I pretty much got all the colors finished. But yeah, so here you can see I'm just sort of penciling, and that I guess the idea was that each issue 2, as well as there being like a few pages of splash pages, and then it switches to a 4-panel grid. The inside front cover, which page 0, as I mentioned earlier, is going to have little character boxes on the left-hand side. And yeah, I don't know if you can see, but I have like Image Comics written down there, and that's just me being presumptuous. I haven't actually talked to Image about publishing this. I'm hoping they will, because they publish a lot of my other books. Most of my in-print library is through them, so hopefully they will publish this. But yeah, I just felt like I needed to put that out there as like a disclaimer or something. They haven't like announced it, or I haven't even talked to anyone there about publishing this. I'm just sort of wishful thinking on my part, hopeful thinking. So yeah, back to this page here. What we have is, in the last issue, we saw these little gremlin characters, and these, then you can see like another pass on it. It's a lot more rendered, detailed pencils. I still haven't inked it yet, but yeah, so these gremlin characters, and they're like little slugworm things, were rushing onto our little ragtag crew here, and the cover starts off with basically one of them, their heads exploding. It's like on sept, and so we haven't actually seen the scene, basically between the issues, one of the little characters attacked Sept and got shot. And here you can see another head blowing up, and you can see on the cover, Fern Fell's running up with a gun, and so she blew up a couple of these gremlins, and there's going to be a few more blowing up, and they're going to run away and stuff. But here you can see the inked version. Yeah, I went over the whole thing with a Faber Castell Pitt pen, and here you can see the brush that I used to get the big large swaths of blue. In some of the previous videos, I discussed the type of blue that I use. It's like it's in the description if you want to check it out. But it's it's not like a paste watercolor. It's like a liquid intense watercolor that I dilute with a little water and just kind of keep in a separate jar. And I use that for this blue and all these underground scenes that I've been doing. So here I went in, I did a few passes with like a bigger round brush in the background, but you could see the brush strokes and stuff. So once it got a little dry, it was still pretty wet. I went in with more of the intense blue, another pass with that big brush I think it's like a number 12, but it's like, you want to get like a big flat, soft brush for those like big areas. It makes it a lot easier, at least it proved to be for me. So I got it to a certain state, the blue to a certain state of like, it's not completely even and smooth, but it's like enough to be like, okay, this is like a big flat plane. I think it kind of reads as a big flat plane, and then it's kind of a matter of going in and adding little details and cleaning up some edges here and there. I wanted that to be just like a big open space and have all the action taking place in like the top third of the page. And I felt like I accomplished it okay. I actually added some black line around a lot of the background this time, which I didn't do with the previous issues and the cover. I don't think I did that. But it just kind of felt like I sort of needed it. I don't know. I maybe just got a little wrapped up when I was inking, but I think that's probably what happened is I inked a building in the background. I was like, oh, that doesn't look bad. And I kind of want it to be inconsistent, just have one building inked. So I went and inked a bunch of the other buildings. It made it a little easier. And then I used that big flat brush to kind of go over all of the legs on all the creatures and kind of add more of like a darker shadow. Oh, there's, my cat interrupting again. But, so the most of the inking, though, all this detail work was done with a Raphaël 8404. And instead of a number 4, which I used for years for inking, I switched to the number 3. So it's a little smaller, and it's, obviously it's like new. It's like a newer brush. I don't know if that's obvious, but I mean, that made it it's making it a lot easier inking and coloring that I have like a nice new brush. I recommend these brushes. They're not vegan or anything though, unfortunately. I mean, they're Kolinsky's. They're like some kind of creature, that's sable-like creature that lives in Russia or someplace like that. But I've actually been considering switching to like a synthetic brush. I just need to find some kind of equivalent for these particular brushes that work as well, that are synthetics. But something I need to do a little more research about. So here's like the last little bit. I think I saved those characters for the last. There wasn't really any lettering on this page other than the question mark above Sep's confused head. What is exactly going on right now? There's pretty much the end of it. Most of his painting was done with ink, with Dr. Martin's Black Star ink. All the materials that I use are all in the description if you want to look at that. And then the watercolor and the sort of the purple-y kind of pink thing is done with a gouache, the gouache set I use. That's a gouache color. And then I use a little bleed-proof white, Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white in certain areas as well to kind of get some lighter white marks. So that's the video for this time. There's the finish. I have a Patreon, Farel Dal, and an Instagram, Farel Dal. Thanks for watching. Bye.